What is going on, YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we have episode 66. As always, with my boy Andrew and my friend. We just completed Christmas, so a
Yes.
happy and merry, Christmas, happy holidays. If you guys are celebrating Hanukkah right now, happy Hanukkah to you. I
Also,
love this
happy
time of the
Kwanzaa
year.
today as well.
Yes, that's right. Lots of fun stuff going on right now. Everybody's in a jolly mood. I love this time of the year. It's my favorite time of the year. So a belated Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah and Happy Kwanzaa to everybody that does celebrate. So Andrew, obviously, we got a little bit to discuss as always. Um, Good and bad, just like last week. But how are we feeling after the holidays? After seeing the first games on Netflix, uh, how's the vibes right now?
I mean, the vibes are vibing. I mean,
Mm,
that's the best I could say because I mean, the weekend wasn't the brightest with the Cleveland Browns, but you know what? I'm
it
still
was
kind of
expected.
I was expecting. I'm still running up the high of the Ohio State win, so that's carrying me over. So that's gonna ruin this Christmas week, and
No.
nothing's gonna ruin that. I mean, the Browns try to, but
Yep,
Ohio State managed to save it with a massive W before the
yep.
so
And of course, we cannot forget about our Cavaliers. They're still staying
they're
hot.
still
They're,
crazy good.
they're still crazy good, and they actually have a really cool stretch of games right now. Tomorrow they play Denver, and then I know they play Golden State away. They play the Lakers away. They basically go on a little West Coast trip. So they're going to have some tough games for their next 5 games. So I'm really curious to see how this Cavs team does around some better talent because
Yeah,
honestly, we've had quite a bit of a stretch of playing some of the more weaker teams, and then having to mix in with some good teams. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I'm really curious to see how the Cavs do with that. But unfortunately, we're not really going to talk too much about the Cavs. We're just going to get it out of the way. We're going to get the bad out right away. So
yeah.
we're going to start with our brownies, and of course, things did not go as planned. Although I don't really think there was a plan, to be honest, with that game. At least it didn't seem like it in the end result. We talked about kind of what we sort of expected from DTR. And for me, it wasn't a whole lot. I know you didn't really have a whole lot to really expect from him either, but there was a little bit of that hope because it was against the Bengals. They don't have a good defense. And it just didn't matter. Um, DTR isn't a NFL quarterback, in my opinion.
No,
I've seen all that I need to see, and it's sad that we got to ride him for at least another game, possibly two. Um, yeah, what's your take on him? Because I know you wanted him to do well. Obviously, I wanted him to do well too. Don't get me wrong, but I sort of said like I expect him to make a couple cool throws here and make some plays with his legs, but I just didn't expect a lot out of him, and I was kind of on the mark, and it just kind of solidifies more that he's never going to be anything more than a backup or third string quarterback.
yeah, no, I completely agree. There's no chance in hell that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I mean, we saw him struggle against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, he barely threw for 150 yards. He threw 2 picks, and he just has a lot of trouble throwing the football. He can run it really well. That's not the issue. It's just he can't pass. And like you said, it's unfortunate, but he's no better than a third string practice squad quarterback for the foreseeable future. I would like to see Bailey Zappi start in this game instead. I mean, you've already got a top 5 pick at this point, so you might as well just say screw it and just go for it. Because hey, Bailey Zappi can't do any worse, right?
No, well that and too, but also like he played in New England, which means he's played in some shitty weather. So I
Yeah,
think he's a little bit more opt for this game compared to DTR. But you know, at the end of the day, this staff seems to sort of have their mind set on certain guys, and that's just the guys that they're
yeah,
going to play, and it's going to be the downfall of some of these guys like Dorsey. and many of the other guys that we're probably going to lose after the season ends. But I do want to talk about Dorsey for a minute too, because we started that game, last week against the Bengals. We started it with a beautiful run by Ford, and
Yeah.
then you get down to the goal line, and instead of rewarding Ford for that great run, bringing him right back in and letting him score, you bring in Devonta Foreman, who has not played a snap in like a month and a half or 2 months now, and he fumbles the fucking ball on the goal line. I don't know if that was Dorsey's doing, if that was Stefanski's doing. I don't know. But whoever made that call alone deserves to get fired on the spot. What are we doing out here? Like, who is making that call and saying, "Yep, that's the guy we need"? He obviously, I get that they have this in their head that he's supposed to be like the Kareem Hunt for us, because he is wearing Kareem's old number, and it's a damn shame that he is. But like, Jerome Ford can get that, and you reward your guys. Like, let him play. He's the
Yeah.
younger guy. Foreman doesn't have anything to play for. He doesn't have anything to prove. Ford does, because Ford has an opportunity to still be on this team next season. Foreman's gone. He's as good as gone. You might as well just put him on waivers and go let him play on a team that's going to go to the playoffs if he really wants to do
Yeah.
that. But like, dude, that call irked me so much, and it just kind of set the tone for the rest of the game. It seemed like, because it didn't get much better from there.
No, it got no better than that. I mean, but like you said, why would you use Deontay Foreman in any situation in this game at all? It made no sense. And like you said, I don't know if it was a Stefanski idea, if it was a Dorsey idea, if they were told to start using Deontay Foreman by someone in the front office. Something felt weird about that. I was like, because I saw that too, and I was like, why is Deontay Foreman? That doesn't make any sense at all. And of course, he fumbles it on the goal line. But the thing is, like you said, you have Jerome Ford who could have ran it in. Hell, you could have just ran a design run for DTR at that fucking point because you're at the
Or
1 yard
at
line.
least Pierre Strong. It's not
Yeah,
like he's not there as well.
yeah.
Like,
There's three options you could have chosen. You chose the wrong one.
yeah.
You chose the fourth option, which was the wrong option. So it made no sense to me why you even put him in that situation. Like you said, it's just the time to dump him, put him on IR. Because if anything, he's not going to stick around. I think they're more willing to keep Naeem Hines than they are to keep Deontay Foreman. And Naeem Hines more as a
Returner, yeah.
special teams returner and whatnot, because all the other returners we have are garbage, and they
Yeah.
can't hold on to a football to save their life either.
No, I mean, and even so, Jerome Ford's been the only returner that's done decent for us in terms
But
of.
you want him to be the running back, not the returner.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the issues that we're having. It seems like our lack of depth seems to always catch up on us, and it makes it hurts me so much that these guys. Andrew Berry has failed us in that sense of not bringing depth in the right positions. We don't have a lot of good depth at D tackle. We don't have a lot of good depth at linebacker. We don't have much depth at safety. We don't have much depth at receiver, running back, quarterback. We don't have depth really anywhere. At least I would say proven or trustworthy. Okay. It's one thing to have players, but you don't trust 90% of them because they
Yeah,
haven't proven shit. They're either too young or they haven't done anything in the league since they've been in the league, and they're just sort of an experiment that we get to once again sit through because that's what Barry loves to do. It just everything about this team is irking the shit out of me, and I can't wait to get these next 2 weeks out because once that happens, guys are going to start flying like flies. They're going to start coming off the
yeah,
books. Dude, I see Dorsey getting canned as quickly as the season ends. I really hope guys like Schwartz don't get canned. I don't necessarily think he deserves the fault for this because, as we said before the podcast, uh, I think the defense has really just been on the field so much because our lack of moving the football. We don't control the time of possession whatsoever. We don't run the ball. We don't use Stefanski offense at all.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to let Stefanski call plays, you need to have somebody come in to call his offense for him the way that he would want it to be called. And so Stefanski has to go out and find that guy. This comes back to the conversation we had a month ago. Is he not able to make these decisions? Is he not being chosen to make these decisions? Who is making these decisions for him, and why? Why are you not letting your head coach make these decisions? There was no way that he wanted to get rid of AVP last year. Zero. And he's doing great in New England. Drake May looks like he's going to be a solid quarterback. They just need more depth. But the Pats knew that. Oh, the Browns were supposed to come into this season and have another 10-win season. They were supposed to be like the Ravens and like the Steelers, who are a very fraudulent team. By the way, after that performance last night, as we've said all season, they're frauds. But you were supposed to be in that position after having such a great year last year, and you're back to square one. You're back at the bottom, and we're fighting for a top 5 spot. And there's a chance where we move up, maybe even in the top 3, because there is a top 5 matchup going on later on this weekend that could determine that. So now the Browns are just playing the tank game, and it sort of comes back now, man. And we heard it today. There's more players talking about, hey, I don't want to be around for a rebuild. And the latest one was Bitonio. Now, Bitonio's stance on it was quite different from Miles from last week, because Bitonio is in a much different spot. Bitonio is a veteran who has been here for over a decade. He was here when Joe Thomas was here. So he has seen it all. He's been through it all. He's been here. He's one of the longest tenure Browns besides Hughlett. I think he's next up in terms of being, here the longest.
Yeah.
And so if they can't build out a plan or say, hey, we are not going to rebuild, we're just going to reload. But if they don't have a specific plan and he doesn't like it, I mean, Petonio's got to think about retirement. Not even playing anymore. It's just retirement at this point. He's been through it all. He's seen it all. And he kind of hinted at that of saying, I don't want to play for anybody else. I don't see myself putting on a different helmet. But retirement isn't, an option, and it's certainly on the table, basically. Or he's going to have to go back and say, well, I want to play another year. And I've been saying all season long, I think this is his last year anyway. Because this season has been too brutal, and I think like Joe Thomas, the injuries pile up, the fatigue over the season piles up, and when you lose this much, it just takes a mental toll that your body just can no longer take. And more of these guys are saying stuff. Ward said some up today as well. Again, wasn't quite as bad as Miles, but he's just like, I just want to win, and that's a lot of these guys. We're not winning, and you got to find the root of what is causing these guys to not play up to their speed, to their ability. When we played so well last year, and you have guys like Emerson, and obviously Ward has played great, but Grant Delpit, Juan Thornhill is non-existent. You don't have a run game anymore. The talent that you had still on this team, all of a sudden just decides they can't play or don't know how to play. There's something wrong with that. There's something either in your teaching or the people that are up in leadership that are failing you, and that needs to be taken out immediately. That should be first order of business, and then you can rebuild from there. But we've been saying all along there shouldn't be a rebuild anyway.
No.
It should be a reload.
No.
So I think the Browns can do it. But based on everybody's vibes and everybody's feelings, everybody says we're going to be bad for the next 3 or 4 seasons, and it's definitely possible. This is the Browns, but they need to figure it out. And this offseason is as crucial of an offseason as I think any offseason we've had so far, because of the expectations that we had for this season versus what the outcome was. And I'm sure you can agree, this is the most disappointing Brown season we've had by far. It trumps 0-16 by a landslide, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I think this is by far worse than 0-16. Because at least in 0-16, it felt like there's some like level of kind of competency going on. And we knew we sucked. Don't get me wrong, we knew we sucked. And we were gonna be god awful. But I don't know what it is for some reason, but like you said, this just feels a lot worse than 0-16.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't have a quarterback that throws for more than like 150 yards, apparently. Our coaches don't seem like they're the ones making decisions, but Andrew Berry in the front office are making the decisions for him, and he's not allowed to be the head coach and do his job. So I don't know what's going on with that, but it's definitely hurting this team. And as you can see, you saw Myles Garrett come out and say it. You saw Joel Bitonio now today come out and say it. But there needs to be some detailed plan going on where we need to come up with something.
Mm-hmm.
And not a rebuild, because I think deep down they know there's no rebuild needed. They know they're a couple pieces away from being back to where they were just last season. And that's really they're telling you that straight up, like, listen, this is a good squad here. We have the right pieces, but you gave us a shitty ass quarterback for $230 million who doesn't know what the hell he's doing, who is now making TikTok videos about, did he break up with his girlfriend? Did he now
or is he going to break up with us?
Yeah, or is he going to break up with us? And all of a sudden, like, now he's sending out these weird ass tweets and weird ass things, and like this is too much of a distraction. And I think they're telling you, get rid of the distraction, get some level of competent QB play going on. And we've talked about options, obviously. We've talked about potentially going out and getting Kirk Cousins. Atlanta wants Deshaun Watson for some reason, it seems like. Why not do a swap deal with Atlanta and swap quarterbacks? We get Kirk, they can have Deshaun. We ride with Kirk for a year to draft a young quarterback and see what happens. Or do you go out and you get Sam Darnold and make him a QB for a couple of seasons and see what you could ride with him?
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of options to choose from. And I think Myles and Joe Patone just want some kind of detailed plan of what moves are we going to make this offseason or try to make.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's the plan for the draft? What's the plan for this? Because if you're going to sit here and tell me all this stuff and it sounds like a rebuild, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go through a rebuild. We don't need to rebuild. We have the pieces. We have the format. We just need a piece here, and a piece here, and we're solid.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy's proven to be a number one wide receiver after getting his first 1,000 career receiving yard season with multiple QBs, by the way. Elijah Moore has stepped up to be a true second. Tillman has shown up and proved that he could be a good wide receiver. You know, obviously Nick Chubb is going to be fully healthy and have a full season healthy again. Obviously, Jerome Ford has proven that he's a decent backup option. Because he's got about the same amount of yards per carry as Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, which is kind of crazy. The only places that you need is obviously like QB, maybe some O-line to help Bitonio and Teller out. Need some just like depth pieces like there. I think linebacker is your biggest need, because after losing JOK, my goodness, like that was a massive loss apparently, because our linebacker room is just piss poor.
Yeah.
But I think Garrett understands that. He's like, give me another guy off the edge that I could work with. Give me some linebacker help. You know, people that could stop the run and at least be a ball hawk during the pass game.
All right.
And then just get a couple offensive linemen and a quarterback, and listen, man, we're solid. I fully trust Martin Emerson. Maybe it's just a bad year for the kid. That happens. You know, do what you want with Greg Newsome. Who cares? And again, what you do with Juan Thornhill doesn't bother me either.
No.
Because again, could it be just a bad year for Juan Thornhill? Perhaps.
It's been more like 2 bad
But
years.
it's been yeah. So in reality, these guys are telling you we're a couple pieces away. We don't need to blow it all up and start all over again.
Yeah.
We're right there. But we need you to use your fucking brains and not be dumb as hell for 5 minutes. Like come on now. Like, let's be a little bit smart. And I think it starts with the front office giving some control to Kevin Stefanski. And hell, we don't even know if Andrew Berry has any control either at this point.
Yeah.
And we don't even know if it was Andrew Berry making those draft picks or if it was Paul DePodesta telling Andrew Berry to make those draft picks.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, there's cancers that need to get out. And those guys are like the DePodestas, the Deshaun Watsons. You got to weed them out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you need to also reroute your scouting department
For sure.
a little bit.
sure.
If not, clean house and start fresh, because the guys that we do have, I don't think are scouting very well. They don't know what they're talking about because it shows. We're getting guys, in this building that are very hit or miss. I think we hit on guys like Jerry Jeudy, but again, these guys are guys that we didn't draft. We got them via free agency, and we were able to sort of go out of our way to go get them. Elijah Moore, same thing. And even some of Andrew Berry's gets in free agency haven't hit. The Thornhill thing has not hit for us. Hicks has been meh. He's had his moments the last few weeks now that he's a little bit healthier, but again, we're getting guys that are too fucking hurt and they don't make a contribution to the team, and that we're wasting money and time in another season. And injuries are a part of the game. It's not a predictable thing, but if guys are at a point of their career where they're hitting near their 30s and they are going to be more injury prone, are you shocked that they got hurt?
Yeah.
You dumb fucks. Why can't we just be analytical about that part? If you want to be analytical about anything, keep the age thing going, because Andrew Berry did have a thing where he didn't want to get guys that were above 28. Okay.
Yeah.
And when he drafts guys, he typically drafts guys a little bit younger. Newsome was a little bit younger. Emerson was a little bit younger. He likes doing that. Why can't we keep that throughout, unless they've actually done something in the league? It's not like Hicks has been a outstanding linebacker in this league for a long time, or even Anthony Walker for that matter. Juan Thornhill had his moments in Kansas City, but it was very short-lived, and he also had injuries in Kansas City during their first Super Bowl run.
Yep.
He was out for that entire run. So how much of his contribution was, him, or was it just the team around him playing so well?
Yeah.
It's so evident, and guys get too clouded with the money that they're making and the other things that they have going on in their life. And I'm not saying that those things aren't important, but you are still there to play a game, a physical game for that matter. If you don't know how to take care of your body, why are you still playing? Because there are guys in this league that play through injury every single year, like guys like Garrett, who he will deal with nagging injuries, but he will play through them. He may not always play well, but he will play through them, and he will have his moments where he is back to being the man. And it just goes to show you, or even Ward, for example, he's had a shoulder injury. He's had an ankle injury. How many concussions has he had? He's barely missed time this season. This is the first season where he hasn't really missed a lot of time, and it's important. Availability is the best ability to have in this league. And I've said that once, and I'll say it again, because it's true. And guys like Watson have not been healthy. They are not reliable. He's not even a leader, and he was voted a fucking captain. You're just wondering who's really making those decisions. And it just boggles my mind that this has gone on for too long. And I think players are just starting to get at this point, it's either we move on from this these sort of cancers we have, or I'm out because I can't do it. I need a fresh start. And I don't blame him. And I don't blame Garrett for saying what he said last week at all. And I don't think there's a damn fan that is mad at him for that. In fact, a lot of fans are saying, good for you. Thank you for saying something, because none of these players have the balls to say it. And Garrett has that ability because he is sort of that LeBron-esque personality for them, where even though he's not going to say much, when he does say that much,
you better listen.
You better listen, and you better take it seriously, because I'm telling you what, if the Browns lose Myles Garrett because they cannot keep a team winnable and able to compete year after year, the fans aren't going to show up no matter how nice your new stadium is. They're going to say, fuck you. We're not dealing with this shit. We're not going to keep getting merch. We're not going to keep going to games. You guys will do your thing and burn to the ground, because we're tired of it. We've seen it all. We've been through it all. Yeah. And we've had to deal with shitty owners, shitty coaches, shitty GMs, players that come here for money and then don't fucking do a thing. It's no wonder we're so upset. So figure it out. Because if you don't, you're going to lose the one thing that makes this team even worth having in this league. And it's the damn fan base.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
And and the thing is too, is like, at the rate that this is going, the Haslams might have to sell the team to someone else, because they might even not get the chance to build the new stadium, because they're going to lose so many fans in the next couple of years if they keep doing this bullshit. If you lose Myles Garrett, and if you lose guys like Joel Bitonio, and if you lose all these guys because you don't have a plan on how to draft or plan to win more games next year, or a plan to get people in here that can help you win games and get some depth, good. Lose all these players. Lose Garrett, lose Bitonio, lose some of these other leaders that you have. Eventually you'll start losing guys like Ward, Jock, all these other guys.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're right back to that 1-16 season. You're right back to that 0-16 year. And now it'll be 0-17. You're going right back to that point. And guess what? Guess who's next on the table to get gone?
Yeah.
Jimmy D. Haslam. And guess what? If those guys are leaving, the fans will join them. If Myles Garrett leaves, the fans will join him. If Joel Bitonio retires, the fans will retire from being a fan of this team. So this is a crucial moment in Cleveland Browns history that people don't seem to realize. This is a crucial moment in Browns history.
Yeah.
It's make it or break it. It's either you actually blow it all up and get rid of Bitonio, Garrett, and everyone, or you listen to them, get the pieces that they want to get, not what you want as an owner or what Paul DePodesta wants. Listen to the players. What do they feel like they want? Let them make you like a list of players they want. And you listen to them. You listen to your players. You listen to your fans. And I promise you, good things will happen. The problem is, are the billionaire owners going to listen? Are they going to drop these detailed plans? Are they going to let Andrew Berry do his job? Are you going to let Kevin Stefanski do his job? Or are they just hire yes men for themselves, right? Because they'll do whatever they tell them to, and they know they can get away with it, and that they'll be the ones to blame, and that the owners won't. Yeah. It's the same problem I have with the soccer team that I love. And Tottenham Hotspur built that brand new stadium where the NFL hosts all their games in London. The owner, the bald-headed prick over there, again, runs everything like the Browns. Yeah. He built this brand new stadium, but he's a businessman. Everything comes first business-wise. The team comes last. Refuses to put a good product on the field. We're 11th place right now, but we have a team that should be finishing top 4. Yeah. Our team is right now in 11th place. Why? Because he refused to buy players. He refuses to listen to the owner or the coaching staff. Refuses to back the manager, like how the Browns refused to back the coach. And they just use the coaches as a scapegoat. So they'd be like, okay, we'll fire the head coach. Okay, the head coach is fired. Back to the cycle of getting a new coach every other year just to let them go, and nothing fucking changes. We still suck no matter what. And guess what? We all know the answer. It points right up to the ownership. We all know it's the ownership that's not doing their jobs. And they'll sit there and continue to let everyone blame the coaching and the manager just so you can keep this cycle continuing. And guess what? They profit off all of that bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. So it's a never-ending cycle for Browns fans, Tottenham fans. If you're a soccer guy out there like me, it's a never-ending cycle. The owner reaps the benefits of the money. Guess what? The Tottenham Hotspur owner wants to build a brand new hotel right next to the stadium.
Right.
And he's willing to spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars to do that, but won't spend $50 million on a player that would help this team win a title. His priority is the damn hotel or something else business-wise, not the team. Could give two fucks about the team.
Right.
But will tell you everything is A-okay. Same with the Haslam's. They'll tell you everything is A-okay, but they won't back Kevin Stefanski. They won't back Myles Garrett. They won't back Joel Bitonio. They won't back their people. But they'll be like, hey, listen, we got a brand new shiny stadium. Again, it's the same thing as Tottenham. Hey, listen, we built a brand new shiny stadium, the state of the art. But we won't put a good product on the field.
Right.
But hey, we'll own everything. We'll get all the benefits and all the money from everything that happens here. The college football games are going to happen in the new stadium. Any soccer games, any concerts that happen in those stadiums. Same thing with Tottenham. We're going to reap the benefits of the NFL coming across seas. We're going to benefit from all these concerts and F1 Formula Racing because they have a Formula One track underneath the stadium.
Right.
Like, we're going to reap the benefits of all that, but the team that actually withholds the ground, the club or the Browns, the players and whatnot, we're not going to make that any better.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to keep it dog shit so we can reap the benefits of sad people.
Right.
And it's a never-ending cycle.
It's so sad. It's so sad when business, these billionaires that buy these teams, they just care about the business side of things. And like, listen, I do agree because at the end of the day, it is a business that you do have to run, but you have to understand it is a different way of running something than just a legitimate business. And it just boggles my mind that these guys don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, why not keep yourself in only the business move and say, okay, I'm going to let guys that know the game step in for me and make these decisions for me and collaborate and then just tell me what I need or need to not do.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way that you run it if you really don't think that you have enough
knowledge of it.
Knowledge, experience, whatever, of doing that. That is okay to admit.
Yeah. Essentially, you're the owner. Your job is to fork over the money to the GMs and whatnot to let them do what they need to do best, and that's sign the players.
Mm-hmm.
Your job is not to get involved and make decisions yourself. I get it. You own the team. But if you don't know anything about the game, if you don't know anything about players and whatnot, then your job is just to fork over the cash and let the front office do their jobs. You sit back and watch, and you sit in your owner's suite, and you chill out. You don't have a damn word to say.
Yep.
Because I doubt Jimmy knows anything much about football. So your job is to fork over the cash and let Barry go to work. Your job is to fork over the cash and let the scouting teams do the work.
Yeah.
Your job is not to get involved. Your DePodesta's job is not to get involved.
Yeah. So ultimately, we will see how this goes down. And as the season ends, we'll talk way more and in depth on what we actually want to see personally. And then throughout the off season, we'll obviously keep track of it. But these last 2 weeks, guys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not very locked into the NFL season.
No.
What I am locked into right now is this team that I'm wearing on my head right now.
Let's skip over to them.
So let's skip over to them because we've talked way too much about the Browns, more than they deserve right now. Ohio State. Obviously, you and I streamed the game last Saturday.
Yep.
And it was an amazing game to watch. And it was an amazing game for us to come out to and experience. OSU came out with a the biggest chip on their shoulder I have ever seen that come out of. They played with a confidence in a determination that I have not seen out of this team since the 2015 run. They did not come to play around. They said fuck around and find out, and they did. Obviously, Tennessee tried to come into this game, with the fans sort of taking over the shoe, having to come out without their shirts on, and it's 20 degrees, trying to act tough. And it just didn't fucking matter. It really didn't matter. Ohio State came out of the jump, honestly, for the first time, at least all season. But I can't remember a time that we've started a game that hot, that fast. 3 for 3 in your first 3 possessions, scoring touchdowns. And you started it out with the guy that we wanted all along to get involved early on, and that's Jeremiah Smith, who is yet again proving if he was eligible for this draft, he's the best receiver going out of this draft as a freshman. That's how good this fucker is. Just give me your early thoughts on just how you thought the game went, and then we'll go into a little more detail about everything that happened, because a lot happened.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a fantastic game, and this is the game that the media was actually backing Tennessee, and everyone was backing Tennessee, and everyone's everyone's like, oh, Tennessee's gonna kill the Buckeyes. No. You forget who we are. Yeah. Because when we get to the college football playoff, we're a whole different team. And I'll give that credit to Ryan Day, because when we get into the football playoffs, we're a whole different beast.
Yeah.
And he came out, like you said, no fear. Let me get to Jeremiah Smith early. And did it twice. Let me get it to Smith twice for 2 quick touchdowns. That Trevion Henderson going a 30-yard run, get a good no touchdown, and right there, right by the end of the first quarter, you're already up 21-0, and everyone's like, "What the just happened?"
Yeah.
What did we just witness? It's 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. What the hell happened to Tennessee? They were supposed to be this, that I Am Aliva kid was supposed to be really good. That Dylan Sampson kid's supposed to be really good.
I mean, he didn't play. He was hurt for the whole game, which was very odd.
Yeah.
So that definitely hurt them, but they still had a solid offensive line, and they still had one of the better defensive lines in the nation. It didn't matter. It did not matter at all.
Well, and that one corner they had was supposed to shut down Jeremiah Smith, and Jeremiah Smith had 100+ yards on his ass within the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
But yeah. This was the game where Ryan Day and Chip Kelly had to show out, and they did. Like, they came out and said, yeah, that Michigan game plan that we have, we're just going to toss it out the window, and we're just going to do what Buckeye football really is, and that's let's just utilize every single weapon we have. Let's get it to the outside. Let's work on these one-on-one matchups, and that's what they did. And credit to Will Howard for noticing some of those instances too, like the second Jeremiah Smith touchdown. He's sitting there doing double takes at the line of scrimmage, like, oh my God, they're leaving him one-on-one again. Like, all right, cool. 3-step drop, floated it up, touchdown. It's like, why would you leave him one-on-one? Why wouldn't you give a safety creeping over there? Like, you got to double team that guy, man. You can't leave him open. But they're also afraid of Emeka Ibuka and Cardell Tate, because those guys are also very good one-on-one receivers.
And even G. Scott had a few good catches. You have obviously both of the running backs can catch out of the backfield as well. So like it really is a pick your poison. But when you are covering Jeremiah Smith one-on-one, even if you have a good corner, he still has the height and size on you. So he's going to go up and probably make that 50 ball probably 9 out of 10 times, because he's just so athletic. But he didn't have to do that with those passes. I want to give a huge shout out to Will Howard. He played his best game by far this season. I was so critical of him after the Team Up North game, and he came out super focused. He finally showed up for that big game. We always talked about whether or not he was able to get that. And I will say we have played a few bigger teams, this season. We, obviously played Oregon. That was his first bigger game. You beat the shit out of Penn State. You beat the shit out of Indiana, and then you come in there at home against Tennessee, and you just mollywop them, and you have your best. I mean, we almost went 4 for 4 on touchdowns. Like the pick really wasn't a pick. He did not get his foot down, and it was a DPI that didn't get called, which happens. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world because it didn't matter. But if you take that pick away, he only missed 4 passes total, and I think 1 or 2 of those were like legitimate drops. So Howard played as good of a game as you could have made. He made some really good throws all night long. He had a lot of throws, like literally in the bread basket almost every time. I mean, the 2 touchdown throws that he had to Jeremiah Smith were right on the money. Only where he can catch it. The deep ball to set up the Judkins' first score to Ibuka. Again, right in the bread basket, over the head of the corner, just on the money. So shout out to Will Howard, but the run game also showed up too. And I think the play calling, again, shout out to Chip Kelly. The play calling with the run game was much more like what we, again, wanted to see. Let these guys get out in that free range, in that open space, because when you get guys like Travion, Henderson in open space, when you get Judge Dawkins in open space, they are going to make the play for you. All you have to do is get them to the second level. And Henderson on both of his touchdown runs were each like 30 or 40-yard scrambles, and him just making the play after running the ball. And Judkins made quite a few good plays, but I mean, everybody played well, and the offense definitely showed up. But let's also have a huge shout out to the defense.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my
Coach Noel
goodness.
had these guys ready to play, and Cody Simon came out ready to lay the boom. Obviously Jack Sawyer, he is turning into one of my favorite guys on this team with his attitude, and he's just playing some of the best ball that he's played all season long and since he's really been a Buckeye. But I mean, we made Tennessee's all offensive line look like we were playing, Northwestern or just one of those smaller teams that we usually crush. We were getting constant pressure on them, especially in the first half. Tennessee's quarterback, I don't think he even had. He didn't pass for a lot in that for the first half. I mean, he started to get something going, but he really couldn't get anything going until the last 6 minutes of the second quarter when he ran it in for their only touchdown of the game.
Yeah.
The defense just showed up and played lights the hell out. And I mean, dude, this is a team that if they play that brand of football against Oregon, there is no way they're losing that game. Even at the Rose Bowl, I don't see Ohio State losing to them again after the way we lost to them earlier on this year. There's obviously revenge on the mind. This team, when they play the way that they did on Saturday night, there's not a team in this college football player that probably could beat them. Honestly, besides Oregon, the only team I really see giving us a fight is Notre Dame out of all teams, surprisingly, because Georgia isn't going to be it. Texas is not going to be it. Arizona State isn't going to be it. Boise State isn't going to be it. We've already beat Penn State, so we know how they work. If Ohio State can play this brand of football, there's nothing that is going to stop them from winning a national championship besides themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I think Ohio State's the best team in college football. And I don't see any doubt about it because what we just saw, nobody's beaten that.
Yeah.
Nobody. JT had 2 sacks. JT looked like his old self. He had 2 sacks. Sawyer had 1.5. Like, this defense looks so good. And this should be fearful for Oregon. Because, number one, you're not at home anymore. You're now on neutral ground. And from what I've been seeing, there's quite a few Buckeye fans going down to Cali right now.
They always show up at the Rose Bowl, man.
We always show up at the Rose Bowl. And, I mean, we played Oregon in the Rose Bowl back in 2010, Troy Smith days. Beat them by double digits. Again, that bowl was full of Ohio State fans. Hardly any Oregon fans in that bowl. Could see the same. And I tell you what, man. play like that, Oregon doesn't have much of a chance.
Yeah.
Oregon struggles. So the game plan should be about the same. If you're Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, just hard for Jim Knowles, defense hard, continued pressure,
Yeah.
and just keep going after the QB. For Chip Kelly, just keep finding ways to get to Jeremiah Smith. Keep finding ways to get Judkins and Henderson outside. Continue to find ways to get these guys more involved. G. Scott up the middle, Carnell Tate, Emeka Buka, all these guys in 1v1 situations. Start off the game like you did. Start off with a quick touchdown. Put them on their back foot immediately. Us, obviously, if you get the ball first. But put them on the back foot immediately. Or you get them a 3-and-out, then you go down and score immediately. So I think if the Buckeyes can get off to another fast start, it's going to be hard to keep. It's going to be hard to keep up. And
it'll really set the pace for
the
rest of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what they're going to look to do, whether it's, like I said, that quick 3-and-out, or whether it's getting the ball first and just driving downfield. Just putting points on the board early and immediately. You set the pace, you set the tone, and you immediately put them on the back foot.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the one biggest difference here for Ohio State this time around compared to the first time we played Oregon is the pass rush.
Yeah,
we didn't record a single sack that game, and I think we only had like two QB pressures, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. So we didn't get to the quarterback at all. And Oregon does have a great O-line, but the way that Penn State played them, I think Ohio State needs to take a little bit what Penn State did against them, see what Wisconsin did against them, teams that they've struggled against, and no, they are not unbeatable. They are beatable. In fact, we almost beat them. So you have plenty of film to go over, and I really am excited to see how this team now takes that next step, because there are plenty of hungry guys that are playing phenomenal ball, man. I mean, that defense was flying around, man. They really were. Everybody was flying around. I mean, that first drive that Tennessee had, Cody Simon cracked the quarterback's fucking helmet on that third down run. It just set the tone. It was like, okay, they're coming out hitting. Ransom to start this second half comes out with a huge play to stop them on like a 3 or 4 yard tackle for loss. Automatic. Well, it wasn't turnover on downs, but again, 3-and-out. It just, they started the game with all of those 3-and-outs for Tennessee. They couldn't get anything going. At one point, the yard disparity was so great, it didn't even look like a real stat. It looked like you were playing Madden or like college football. It was like we had almost 300 yards of total offense. They didn't even surpass like 50 at one point.
Yeah.
It was brutal. Tennessee couldn't find a way out of that with the brightest of flashlights. They could not get out of that tunnel. That's how good Ohio State's defense played. And if this offense runs the way it did, even close to what they did this time around, this is a team that can go all the way and beat any team in this college football playoff. Because Oregon is the only team that scares me. Like Notre Dame again, they kind of scare me, but not to that degree. But also Oregon does not really scare me. And if you look on FanDuel, on DraftKings, Ohio State is favored in this game right now. Yep. I'm not sure what the point spread is, but I know
I'm going to look that up.
Line, I was just getting ready to do the same thing. But I know Ohio State is, in fact, favored, and it's one of the first times that the first seed in the college football playoff in general has not been favored. And what makes this a little bit more hilarious to me is this is kind of so the point spread is 2.5.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge disparity, but Oregon is basically at a home game here. Like, it's not far from where they play. So technically speaking, Oregon fans should really show up, because I don't even think it's a 2-hour drive for them. Let's see. How far is Oregon from Rose Bowl Stadium? Okay, let's just Google this real quick. Okay, it's 13 and a half hours. Never mind. It's a little bit closer, but the point is, it's a lot closer than we are. Okay.
Yeah.
They have a 1 hour flight. We have a 3 to 4 hour flight to go to Cali.
From here to LA, it's a 4.5 hour flight.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go.
They have like a barely an hour flight from Oregon to LA.
So yeah, I was very wrong on how close they are, but again, it's a lot closer for them than it is for us. But Ohio State fans now have something to show up for. That's partly why the Tennessee fans were able to get those seats and fill as many, as they did. That's not going to happen this time around. Ohio State fans are back to being really, really excited. And I don't blame the fans for not being as excited because I think we both sort of went into this game a little nervous.
Yeah.
But as soon as you started that, that first drive, it's 3 or 4 plays in. It wasn't even a full minute into the game and we scored. I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And 3 and out, score, 3 and out, score. And I was like, holy shit, 21-0? It's not even the end of the first quarter. What is going on?
Yeah.
And then we slowed down a little bit, but you start the third quarter, you go right back to Jeremiah Smith. And then after that, it was run game the whole way. And if Howard can just not turn the ball over, that's his only gripe for me. Don't make any stupid turnovers. If you do, at least have it be a turnover that's not going to be returned back for a score or on a short field sort of position. You a position where the defense was on the field for a long time, and then you throw a pick early on in the drive, because it is going to happen. But man, if Ohio State can just play that way, just play aggressive, that they just can't be in their own way. That is Ohio State's biggest threat is themselves. Ryan Day's biggest threat is himself. And we've said that so many times now. I know we have.
Yeah.
He is his biggest enemy. He is his biggest threat. If he just stays out of his way and plays within what he knows this team is capable of and plays aggressive, like Chip Kelly called last week, man, it's sky's the limit for this team. This team cannot be beat when they play that way. And there were a lot of people on all types of media that were saying this form of Ohio State is the best team in college football, period.
Yeah. Now, I do have the stats up from the last time we played Oregon. And let me just say this. Will Howard was 28 of 35 for 330 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks against Oregon in week 4. Mm-hmm. No picks. Had a 95.1 QBR. Henderson had 87 rushing yards. Junkins had 23, but he also had a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Jeremiah Smith had 100 receiving yards, and BUCKEYES had 93. So those
they played well in that game. It's just we fell short because the defense didn't show up.
Well, the defenses looked the exact same. They had 36 tackles to our 31. They had 64 total tackles to our 60. They had 1 sack to our 0. They had 2 tackles, or we had 2 tackles for loss to their 3. But we also had 5 pass deflections. They didn't have a single pass deflection. Right. So the defense was pretty equally bad for Oregon as it was bad for us.
Right.
So it was very offensive. It was very quarterback heavy offensive because their quarterback also had almost 340 passing yards too.
Right.
But a lot of their big passes, because the guy was like 23 of 35. Meanwhile, Howard again missed 4 passes.
Yeah.
And had the same amount of numbers. So it's going to be very interesting because, again, it wasn't very defensive from either team. It was very offensive heavy. And it was a very back and forth game. I think there was like 6 lead changes throughout that whole game. So it's a very back and forth game. And I don't see anything possibly different, really, unless the defense actually shows up. Again, if you can get a couple 3 and outs with a couple scores, it's going to turn right into the Tennessee game again, where you just go up by 21-0 or something, and you just start shutting them out a little bit and give them lack of confidence.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
And I do believe we are going to try and live stream this once again.
Yeah.
I know the game is at 5:00 on New Year's Day, so it will be a middle of the week game. But again, everybody's off, so we are going to have some fun on this game.
Yeah.
And we're going to be rooting really hard for Ohio State. And I'm telling you, man, if they beat Oregon, it's natty or bust. I mean, it's just that it's plain and simple at that point. But they have a great chance if they do beat Oregon, and I'm really excited to see what this team does. So before we move on to the NFL picks, what's your prediction for the game against Oregon?
I'm gonna go with 35-28 Ohio State. I think it's gonna be a close game. It's gonna be decided by a touchdown. I think it's gonna be like the first game is gonna be pretty back and forth. If there's no defense, it's gonna be pretty back and forth. But if we come out like we did against Tennessee, I don't see why we can't just go crazy against Oregon. Because I think that's the one thing about Oregon that people don't realize is that their defense is not overly spectacular. Their offense is flying, but their defense isn't all that cracked up to be. So I would say 35-28. It's going to be very offensive for both teams.
Yeah, I definitely do think it's going to be more offensive, but I don't think it's going to be quite as back and forth like the first game was.
Yeah.
I think Ohio State's defense is going to show up a lot better because they know the importance of it.
Yeah.
And as long as they can keep that sort of touchdown plus lead against them, I think we can win it by at least two possessions. So I'm saying it's going to be like Ohio State 34, Oregon 28, or like 26 or something like that. Yeah. Somewhere in that ballpark, I think it's still going to be enough scoring. But I do think Ohio State is going to win this game for sure, and I really like their odds. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we will live stream that that game, and then we'll obviously have the podcast for next week after that. So it'll be a fun time. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go too. And with that, let's go into our predicts.
Yes, sir.
Oh, so obviously,
go ahead and go over everything. Yeah.
So obviously, we didn't record before the holidays because it's the holidays and stuff. So there's games on Christmas Day yesterday. There's a game tonight, which is what we're recording for. It starts in an hour. There's 3 games Saturday, and then the rest of the NFL on Sunday, then Sunday night, Monday night. But Zach gave me his predicts for the first 3 games. So that way we had the predictions before the games happened. And so these are not skewed in any way of us like, oh, well, we just gave ourselves the points just because. So we had our predictions already. For week 16, we both went 11-5. So again, we tied. So that brings you to a total of 147.78 and me 143.82.
Okay. Thank God you didn't keep any ground on me because I know I just remembered I got the Washington game wrong. But that wasn't a bad take for me to say the Eagles are going to win that game. Yeah. But Jalen Hurts got fucking hurt at the beginning of the game. They had to go with Kenny Pickett. And also, Jane Daniels went nuclear. He went nuclear at the end of that fourth quarter. I think they scored 21 points in that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So that was a great game.
And that's why you don't doubt me when I pick Washington, baby.
He's going to do it again.
And I'm going to do it again. Am I going to do it again? Hell yes. We'll get to that one game later. But obviously, we already had the Christmas Day games. And me and Zach both had Kansas City and Baltimore. So those were obviously W's for the both of us. So we're both
Steelers are frauds.
Absolutely, dude. They really are frauds. And then for tonight, I have... For Seattle and Chicago, I have Seattle. Seattle has everything to play for tonight. This is their chance to, again, try and get a secured spot in the wild card game. And they really need a big win tonight against Chicago. Chicago not playing very well as of late. I know a lot of people are a little worried about the Seahawks tonight for some reason because they're thinking of the weather and it's in Chicago, so it's going to be a little bit tougher of a place to play. But again, I don't see Chicago making any noise in this game, and I think Seattle's got more to play for than Chicago. Chicago's just kind of play for a pick now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also going to take Seattle. They're going to ride the back of Charbonnet tonight.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also a guy that's going under the radar this year, Jackson Smith and Jigba. JSN has been having a season. I think he just surpassed 1,000 yards this season. I know he's been scoring a lot lately. So with Metcalf not doing as much, he's really stepped up to the plate, and it's doing just enough because their defense is solid. So, despite Chicago being at home, I mean, Caleb Williams might still play well, and this game might be closer than you think, just because it is at home for them. But I just don't see Chicago beating Seattle right now. I don't.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, so going to our Saturday games, the first one being LA Chargers versus New England.
Chargers. I mean, the Pats are playing better, but I mean, the Chargers again, they're playing for a playoff, and I don't think they've really clinched it yet, so they have to win. So they need this.
Yeah, again, this is a similar situation to the game tonight between Seattle and Chicago. This is a chance for the Chargers to continue their spot or to continue to try and get their spot into the playoffs, and New England's just playing for nothing at this point, but pride or whatever, if they're just tanking for another high-end draft pick. Right. So give me the Chargers for this one. The next Saturday game going to be Denver and Cincinnati. This one's going to be a little bit harder to choose from.
Yeah, because both teams are fighting for a spot. The Bengals need to win this game in order to stay in the playoff hunt. Yeah, they do need to win out, but the Broncos also kind of do need to win out as well because they're fighting with the Chargers.
Yeah,
in their division for the wild card. I think the Broncos are still going to do it, and I think it's mainly because of that defense. The Bengals are just a bad team that are facing really shitty teams as of late, and they're prevailing. Despite Jamar and Burrow being as good as they have been, and even Higgins has been playing a lot better. Chase Brown is a phenomenal get for them. Like, they have pieces, but that defense is so atrocious. Yeah. This is not the Browns that you are playing, and Denver is probably going to beat your ass. I'm going to think. So I'm going Denver.
I went with Denver too. I don't care what Jeff Saturday had to say about the Broncos being frauds and ruining Bo Nix's, what he's been doing this season. I think Bo Nix is playing out of his mind. I think he's playing really well. I said this in the last couple ones. Him and Courtland Sutton have really gotten something going on down there. Oh, yeah. I just think the Bengals defense is just god awful, and it's not going to help them much. And now that they're playing an actual football team, so I'm going with the Denver Broncos because the Broncos defense is just really good. They're the best defense in the league, in my opinion. And the Bengals defense is not going to be able to do enough to keep them in this game. It's going to be a lot of Jamar Chase and a lot of Joe Burrow, but you can't rely on that for the entirety of the season and the playoffs. And I think that's where the Bengals get hurt a lot, is that they're just relying on those two to do everything.
Yep.
All right. The last Saturday game being the Cardinals and the Rams.
I'm going Rams here, especially being at home. This is going to be a tough game for Arizona to do. They fucking choked last week. I don't see them being able to get over the hump. I think LA does it here.
Yeah, me too. I just don't think – I think Arizona's done and dusted.
Yeah, they're cooked.
They're cooked, so give me the Rams, especially at home. The Rams should have this easy. All right, Colts and Giants. Again, this one should be not –
I was about to say, speaking of easy, the Colts are probably going to win this by 2 touchdowns. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to have another nuclear game. So if you have him on fantasy, or if you want to put in a FanDuel bet for him to score twice, do it, because he's probably going to.
Yeah. Yeah, I went with Indianapolis because, again, the Giants are cooked. Everything's just cooked about them. And they're probably the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, guaranteed, because of how cooked they really are. Speaking of cooked, the other New York team, the Jets versus the Bills.
Bills. I mean, the Bills are besides the Lions, they really are my favorite to win the Super Bowl. So,
yeah, I went with Buffalo too, just for the fact that again, just like you said, the Lions and them are my favorites to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl. And I also think Josh Allen is MVP.
Yeah.
I get Lamar Jackson's been doing really well as of late, but I think the true MVP goes to Josh Allen, especially too as is the only one that beat the Kansas City Chiefs so far this season. So just for that alone, he deserves to be the fucking MVP.
Yeah.
He beat the rest. So all right, going with the Titans and Jags.
This is a gross game. I'm gonna say 10.
Game.
I'm gonna say Tennessee here.
Yeah.
I think Jacksonville has been I mean, they've been playing better.
But it's Mac Jones.
Yeah, it honestly, I mean, it's not a much better game because they have freaking Mason Rudolph going, but he actually played decent last week, so I don't see it being his worst game. If this is going to be a game he's going to play well in, it's going to be against Jacksonville. So I'm going to go Titans, but I hope that Jacksonville wins, because if they do win, it's probably going to put us in a better spot in the draft.
Yeah, that's what we hope for, but I went with Tennessee too, just because I think Mason Rudolph is a better quarterback than Mac Jones.
Yeah.
So, and that's really it for me. That's why I went with Tennessee. Raiders and Saints.
Ugh, this is another awful game.
Yeah.
I actually think the Raiders are going to do this. They found a little bit in the run game, and the Saints just lost Kamara. They don't have Taysom Hill. They don't have Carr. They just threw up a absolute stinker the other night there. I think it was Monday night.
Yep.
Whichever game it was bad, and I just don't see them getting much better. Raiders.
No, I agreed with you. Without Derek Carr or even Taysom Hill, who is a Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback, and he didn't do jack shit at all in the last game. I think they put up 0 points. I think they got completely shut out.
Yeah, they did.
So I think this is where the Raiders have it. Brock Bowers is the best tight end in football. You can't convince me otherwise, and he's a rookie.
Yeah.
So I think as long as he has a decent game, the Raiders are just going to win, because the Saints are just god awful. Again, just like the Giants and us or whatever, they're just completely horrible.
Right.
All right, Carolina and Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay's at home. Tampa Bay is going to do it. I do think Carolina will give them a little bit of run for their money, because Bryce Young has been playing better, but it's just not their time just yet.
Yeah.
And Baker's been playing solid. I mean, they lost on, Sunday night, but it wasn't by much. I think Mike Evans is still trying to chase his 1,000-yard, season. So I think Baker's going to try to use this game to really get him there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Tampa Bay is going to win this just because Baker is doing really well. And like you said, I think him and Mike Evans are going to go for the 1,000-yard season because they need it. Mike Evans needs it. So, I just think the Buccaneers defense is really good. And Bucky Irving has been playing really well for them too. So, give me Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
All right, NFC East matchup, Dallas Cowboys versus Phillies.
This is a weird game because, basically, if Jalen Hurts is out, this makes the Eagles winning this game harder because I don't like Kenny Pickett. But the Cowboys just shut down Lamb. And beyond that, I don't know how well their offense is going to go. So because the Eagles are at home and they still have a very good defense, I am going to say the Eagles will win this game. It does seem like, the Cowboys are kind of throwing the white flag, but I would not be surprised if the Cowboys squeak this out if Hurts is still out.
I said the Eagles, and for me, I said for this, it doesn't really matter if Hurts is out because Saquon Barkley is out of his freaking mind.
Yeah,
and they could just run.
Play well.
They could just run the ball with Saquon Barkley, and he'll just go for 200 yards and 5 touchdowns just himself, and he'll just carry this team on his back. So,
right.
Give me the Eagles, and at this point, I should just say give me Saquon Barkley in this game because he's probably going to single-handedly beat the Dallas Cowboys by himself. All right. Our game that got flexed out of the Sunday night spot and into a 4 p.m. slot. Thank Christ. Miami versus Cleveland. It's going to be cold and rainy, so...
Yeah, I mean, because of the weather, I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State, if the Browns
I wish it was us.
somehow do it, because they could. But if DTR goes, it's almost a zero chance for me, even if the Dolphins suck in this weather. And plus, the Dolphins have been playing better, so I'm not gonna say that they still can't win this. The Dolphins are gonna win this game, but if Bailey Zappi plays, I think we have a little bit better of a chance. But if it's DTR, it's going to be another rough game. So I just don't see the Browns being able to win. And honestly, I'd rather just have them lose out anyway and just
Yeah.
call it a game.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I have Miami winning this game because for me, it doesn't matter about the weather. If DTR plays, you're not going to win this game. I will, however, change if it does become Bailey Zappi as a starter. Then I would definitely switch because I think Bailey Zappi is just better.
Yeah.
He's come to Cleveland and he's beaten Cleveland in the Brown Stadium, and he's through for, I think he had his best performance in his whole career at Cleveland Brown Stadium. So, and with a lot less too. He had no receivers whatsoever. He had like Nelson Aguilar as his top receiver. So yeah, give me Miami because as long as DTR starts, it's just tank season at this point.
Yeah, tank it.
Green Bay and Minnesota. This is probably the best game of the week.
Yeah. So I think in their first matchup, I think the Vikings did squeak out, and now the Vikings are at home. The Vikings are playing really, really well. So is Green Bay, though. Green Bay has really found something within that run game. But Minnesota's defense is really good against the run. I do think Minnesota wins this game. It's going to be close. It's going to be a good game. And if Green Bay does win, it's because they found something in that run game that the Vikings simply cannot stop. But between Jay Jetta, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, even what's his name, Aaron Jones.
Yeah,
they just have guys that are just playing really well. They're at home. I like Vikings here.
Yeah, I went with the Vikings because, like you said, they squeaked out the first time in Green Bay, but they're at home. They're a really good home team. And I know they're missing Christian Watson, too, the Green Bay Packers. And I know he's like a goal line merchant, end zone merchant. So they're going to have to heavily rely on Romeo Dobbs and, a couple of the other guys, and Tucker Kraft, too, a lot. But for the Vikings, I mean, to me, it's just like teams like Buffalo and, like Denver. They're just well-rounded all over the place, well-rounded offense, well-rounded defense. They're always a tough beat. So give me Minnesota just because they're at home. And I think they're just a very good, well-rounded team altogether.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sunday Night Football, man. Atlanta versus Washington.
I got to pick your guys in Washington. They're at home. They just came off an outstanding win. I do not see them flopping. I see Scary Terry still playing. Atlanta played better last week, but they played better against the Giants. They had Drew Lock throwing them picks for them that returned. I think they had 2 pick sixes.
Yeah,
so that helps them. Penix didn't look that great. He threw a pick, which wasn't his fault, by the way. I saw the pick. Kyle Pitts literally caught it, turned around, and then just went, "Here you go," and just threw it at him. So that wasn't his fault, but he didn't really play that well. They still have Bijan, but Washington is the better team. I think they do it at home.
Yeah, I'm going with Washington because, again, they're fighting for a wild card spot. So they have a lot to play for. Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin over the last 6 weeks have just been unstoppable. They've been putting up crazy numbers together, and I finally think they found their 1-2 punch there in Washington. That's going to be Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels for the future. They're going to easily win this football game. I don't see any other chance of them losing this game because Atlanta's defense is trash and Penix is not NFL ready yet in my eyes. So give me Washington. And then what I think is the other good football game of the week is Monday night against San Francisco versus Detroit. And to be honest, it's not that much better because San Francisco's down about like 50 people.
Yeah, that, and I think I'm pretty sure San Fran is totally out of the playoffs, so they don't have anything to fight for.
Yeah, they're eliminated.
Detroit's going to win this game.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, there's not much really else to say there.
No, there's not much else to say. I chose Detroit too because even though it's in San Francisco, there's just too many injuries, and they've just been eliminated. They got eliminated after the last game, so there's no hope for playoff contention. And yeah, I don't see how San Francisco goes into there and wins this game, and there's nothing for them to play for.
Nothing. Yep. So yeah, man. I mean, that's pretty much going to do it. That is obviously our picks. Obviously, we have a lot to look forward to, at least with this game. Fuck the Browns,
Absolutely.
but the Cavs are still going. They play tomorrow, starting their West Coast trip, starting in Denver. So they have a good stretch of games. So hopefully next week we'll also have a little bit of them to talk more about, because I do want to start getting the Cavs more involved in the pod. But yeah, again, we plan on live streaming the Ohio State and Oregon game. So it is going to be Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time for us. So be sure to tune in during that. We will obviously let you guys know on Twitter and everything. So if you guys want to follow us on all of the socials, they are all down in the description of the video as always. And Andrew, you got anything else before we log off for the day?
Go Cavs and go Bucks, baby.
Go Cavs, go Bucks, and fuck Jimmy Haslam. We'll see you guys next week.